Such a beautiful roasted chicken, my goodness. I'm Jessica J. I have this YouTube channel because I like to just share with people some things from my ordinary life. This is just the way I cook at home. Today I'm not feeling very good. I'm kind of tired, but you know what? The show must go on. And what I mean by the show is life. Life must go on and we all have to eat, right? So because I am maybe not feeling the best, I'm going to make a whole chicken so that in the next couple of days I don't have to cook. This chicken can become chicken tacos, it can become chicken salad, it can become chicken sandwiches, it can become chicken stir-fried rice. For all we know, we don't know yet. I'm just going to cook it and I'm going to show you how. I haven't prepped any of the spices or onion or anything yet because I want to show you exactly how fast I can get this sucker into the oven. And all I'm going to do is chop an onion before I actually touch the chicken. Now I also like to get some of my spices ready before I touch the chicken. If this was a smaller chicken, you could actually throw some potatoes in with it right at the same time as you're putting it into the oven. This chicken is 8 pounds, so I'm thinking it's going to take about 2.5 to 3 hours in the oven. Also, there's going to be no room in this roaster for me to put the potatoes and carrots around. So what I'm going to do is get some potatoes ready, poke a little hole in them. Just kidding. Do is put them on the oven rack with no tin foil. I just try to keep things simple and I try to keep things cheaper. And you know, years ago I was buying tin foil all the time, and then I thought, why am I buying all this tin foil all the time, wasting all this tin foil all the time? So one day I just thought, I'm just gonna try and put a potato in the oven. What a novel idea. Poke a hole, put it on the rack. Guess what? They come out marvelous. They're absolutely great baked potatoes, just like this, without wrapping them in tin foil or anything. Okay, let's open up this chicken so I can show you how easy this is. I'm just going to take it out of the bag, and guess what's going in the garbage? The liver. Don't tell my mother-in-law, because she would save the liver. There, I've got a little plate, and I'm going to save that liver to cook separately. But I'm going to leave the neck, gizzard, and even the heart right here in the bottom of the pan. I'm going to take those onions next and just put them in there. Just throw it in, nothing fancy. This is not Chef Jessica's house, right? This is just my house, and this is just our everyday lives, and the queen is not coming for supper. So just throw the onions in there, throw the poultry seasoning on there. You can rub it around a little bit. If you don't like touching the raw chicken, you can always buy those little gloves. Actually, you know what? Maybe no, don't buy those little gloves, because you're just wasting some plastic and it costs more money. And the whole point of this is saving money, right? Okay, so just put that poultry seasoning all over chicken. Another thing I don't have, because this isn't Chef Jessica's house, it's just my house and I didn't run out to buy any, is kitchen twine. I don't have any of that. So sometimes if you can just manage it just right, if you can cut a little slit in the skin, you can actually bend it around like that to hold the leg. And just maybe see if you can get it to hold the other leg too. And sometimes I luck out and I get that to work, and it works pretty dandy. And sometimes I don't luck out and get that to work, and like, who really cares? The meat might be falling off the chicken bone legs, but that's okay. It still all tastes the same and it's gonna taste marvelous. So another thing you can do to get that chicken tucked in there is just sort of tuck the wings underneath it like this if you can. Just like that. See how I've tucked the wing in there like that? That'll help protect it a little bit too from getting overcooked before the rest of the chicken is done. And now they're all tied in. And I didn't even have to go buy any twine. Thank grandmas for these types of tricks. So the chicken is ready now to throw in the oven. I mean, how easy is that? I'm gonna go wash my hands and then I'm just gonna be right back and pop it in the oven and show you. Sometimes if you put too much water, you're gonna be almost boiling your chicken instead of roasting it. So, you know, maybe a cup and a half. Just enough to kind of cover the bottom of the pan, about that much only. And it is super handy, and actually I think I'm going to take a minute before I put this in the oven and put this underneath. It's not too hard to do, and it makes it easier to lift your chicken out later. Perfect. And a lot of people like to cook it without the lid because they like a crispier skin. I'm going to leave the lid on just for a little bit and then come back and check it and see how it's doing. And it goes! Yoo-hoo! So I'm setting the timer for 1 hour because I want to remember to come back and check on this chicken and see how it's doing, make sure it has enough water. It probably is going to have enough, because as the chicken cooks, there's going to be some juices that are going to come off of it, including some grease. And once there's some grease on the bottom, you don't really have to worry about it burning or anything. But I'm thinking this chicken, it's quite large. It's going to take almost 3 hours today. So then I'm going to come back. Once I check it, I'll set the timer again for another hour or even 45 minutes. And then at that second point of checking the chicken, then I will put my potatoes in to bake. I am so glad that I did not throw this chicken liver away. And I had a little bite of it, and now I guess my mother-in-law is not going to get any after all. It's just too super delicious. Mmm, so good. It's also so tender. I can just cut it with a fork. So as soon as I'm done this snack, I think I'm going to leave the house for about an hour and go for a visit with some of my friends. I mean, this was so super easy, really. All I had to do is wash my hands when I was done, and that's cooking. And when I get back, I can throw the potatoes in the oven. So super easy. And it's going to be delicious. Just like this liver. It's been 3 hours since I first put the chicken in the oven, and it's been 45 minutes since I put the potatoes in the oven, and the potatoes are ready. I also took the lid off the roaster for the last 20 minutes or so to give the chicken a chance to brown. This is why I like that handy rack that I bought. Thanks, honey. Such a beautiful roasted chicken, my goodness. And I'm gonna just let it sit for a few minutes before I carve it. So I turned off the oven and I just put the potatoes in a bowl, and I'm gonna pop them back in the oven just to stay warm. While the chicken sets for a little before I carve it, I'm going to make a gravy. But there is your juice that you can use to make a gravy. Now you can thicken your gravy however you like to do it best. If you've never made gravy before, I'll show you what to do. I use cornstarch because I cannot have gluten, but flour makes actually, in my opinion, the best gravy. Here I have 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. I have turned the oven on to get the gravy to start boiling, but you don't want to put your cornstarch directly into the gravy. You would get lumps every time. Same with if you're using flour. So I'm going to go add a little bit of water to this cornstarch. So I've put some water into the cornstarch, maybe about half of a cup, and I use the least amount of water that I can to dissolve the cornstarch, because if you make it too watery, then you're just watering down the flavor of your gravy. Even before it's boiling, you can add your cornstarch. I just sort of add it in slowly and whisk it at the same time to help prevent any lumps. And if you've used cornstarch, you do have to wait for it to come to a full boil again, because otherwise the cornstarch won't come clear. And this is going to make a fairly thin gravy. You would have to add a lot of cornstarch for it to be really nice and thick like a flour gravy. And I don't like putting that much cornstarch because it will actually alter the flavor quite a lot. So if you use flour, you can get a really gorgeous, nice, thick gravy. So I like using a nice large saucepan, and this one's extra handy. It has these little divots in the edges, so makes it handy to pour. So that's going to be good enough for me. I'm going to shut off the gravy now. Voila! This is how I carve a chicken. So I'm going to start with the wings, and I basically just grab them and twist them right off, because the chicken is so cooked that they just come off so easily. See? I just twist and pull them out. The legs are next, so you just slice along in between the breast and the leg, and if your chicken is well done, it's going to come apart so nice and easy that you hardly have to use your knife, and it's going to separate with the thigh, just like so. I just give it a little pull, and there you have the chicken leg and thigh. The next step is to separate out the leg and thigh by just finding where the joint is. Right in between, there we go. Sometimes you just have to feel for where the joint is, and then you can tell when you've reached it. So just give it a little push, and there's your chicken leg for your platter. And you turn this over, and hopefully you still have the nice skin attached. That's thigh, and do the same thing with the other leg and thigh. And then the breast. Some people will actually, well, I'm going to, this is what I'm going to do. You slice right alongside the bone like this. You don't have to worry. Now some people will go like this and keep making slices, and then they'll come underneath and slice all the way across like this, and then they'll just lift it off, and they have these slices that are this way. Some people slice it off this way, but I like just removing the breast. Now just be careful whenever you cut towards yourself that the knife doesn't slip, but you just pull it all off in one large chunk like this. Put it on the cutting board, and this is what I like to do because I find it the easiest. Anyways, this is how I do it. I just slice it in pieces like this, and my knife is not quite sharp enough. but it's so easy. I mean, you don't want supper time to be a stressful time. You just want to enjoy the food, right? And just lift it on to the platter. Easy peasy. Let's do the other chicken next. Underneath the chicken, right in here, there's really two really amazing little tasty pieces of meat that some people call the oyster. So you can put those on the platter too if you wanted. There is a lot of meat left, and what I'm going to do is just break it apart and pick that off and not waste it. This can be for chicken soup too. Now I'm taking the big pot that the gravy was in. What I do, I put the chicken carcass in the pot. You can even put the chicken skin in. And I fill that up with some water, with some onions and some parsley, some different vegetables, and that is what I'm going to use to make some chicken stock. And I have the chicken stock boiling, and I have supper served. My husband and I are making an effort to eat less meat in general. You would never know it right now by the size of this platter, but our plan this evening is to eat this giant salad, and it's just my husband and I. My husband will probably eat a potato or two, and then this is going to be for leftovers. So in a way this is like a batch cooking effort, because now we're going to have chicken all week, and if I end up with chicken that I think is going to be too much for us to eat in the upcoming days, or we think we're going to be sick of chicken, maybe tomorrow I'll plan what I want to do with it, because I might freeze some, and if I do decide to freeze some, I'll put it in the freezer tomorrow versus waiting until it's, 3-4 days old to freeze it. And the potatoes, a lot of people like mashed potatoes with chicken dinner, which I highly recommend. I loved mashed potatoes. But today I wanted to go for baked potatoes, and there's a couple of reasons. I like making sliced potatoes to put in the frying pan the next morning for breakfast. So there's Brent's supper. Here I wanted to show you the chicken stock that's just starting. Again, I put the bones into a pot with some water, and I've added some celery and some carrots, and I added the onions that I had strained off. It's boiling really heavy right now. I'm going to turn it down to low or medium low, and I'm going to put the lid on, and I'm going to leave this for a few hours. Now, some people say it has to simmer for 8 hours, and I disagree on that. I've been making soup for years, and I usually just boil this for 2-3 hours, because often by the time I've made chicken dinner, I want to boil the bones right away, just to use the same pot that I made the gravy in, and instead of starting tomorrow, because then I'll feel like I have to wash the pot and put the bones in the fridge for the night and stuff. And while I've got everything dirty and everything out, let's just do this now. And I don't like leaving things to simmer overnight while I'm sleeping. I really don't. I'll turn it off later, 9 o'clock at night or whatever, let it cool a bit, and then put it in the fridge for the night. And then tomorrow I can make soup, or tomorrow I can freeze it. Okay, so I'm going to leave that for a few hours. Here's the chicken stock. It's been boiling for 2.5 hours now. Just actually simmering on low is what it's doing. I haven't added any more water at this point. And I haven't added any extra salt either, because I did put salt in when I cooked the chicken. And what I'm going to do is just wait until I actually make soup out of it, or see what I'm going to use the stock for. So what I'm going to do is shut this off now. It's pretty easy. And see, it makes a really nice soup stock. And once I strain it, it'll be ready to use for soup or different recipes. And you can add parsley to this if you like, fresh or dried, but I'm going to wait and see what I use it for. But if I make chicken soup, it's definitely going to get a little bit of parsley. And it'll definitely probably get a little bit more salt, but right now I'm just going to leave it plain. So what I'm going to do is when there's nice large pieces of chicken like this, I'm actually going to pick them out, save them for soup. I don't like wasting any of it really. There's still a lot of meat in here, see? Quite a lot. But a person has to be really careful and strain this with a strainer, for the reason being that now that it has boiled down, there's going to be a lot of really tiny little bones in here. Some of the backbones can be actually quite small. And I'll probably save some of these carrots too. Just eat them mashed. Maybe tomorrow I'll have them for lunch. So I'll strain it like that. And that's our nice chicken stock. Ready to make soup or something. So I've got just a little over a liter here and it's quite concentrated. I'll be able to add a little bit of water to it so if I make soup. That is about it for straining chicken stock.